Welcome back to another video on the channel, and today I'm going through each League 2 side's season and ranking it on a tier list. So the tiers are obviously top is the A category, and it'll filter all the way down to F, which is a season to forget if any of the teams are in there. There's been some interesting seasons from a couple of League 2 sides. A couple of League 2 sides have overachieved, gone above expectations, and then there's been a couple that have really fell short of expectations this season. So it's been an interesting season, another good season in the 4th division of English football. So let's dive into the video and let's get into it. The first team is Morecambe. I've got them in a D category. I think the main talking issues at the moment are off the field with Morecambe. Not playing players on time, having points deductions this season, a 3-point deduction. Saw them finish 15th in the end. There was a brief spell in the season where they were in and around the playoffs, but their end of season form has been really poor. 3 wins out of the last 12 games. Would see them in 22nd in the form table. I thought they got off to a decent start this season under Derek Adams. I thought Michael Mellon and Adam Mayer were very vital for their success, but with them going back in January, they haven't been as prolific in the second half of the season. I think 15th, where the finish was about fair on the form, but things are not looking good for Morecambe at the moment. Grimsby Town, and it's been a complete opposite to what happened really last season. It was a successful campaign, I would say, for Grimsby last season under Paul Hurst. They finished 11th in League 2 after getting promoted from the National League the season before. They went on a really good cup run, getting to the quarter-finals, beating teams like Southampton and Luton along the way. So there were some real good signs going into this season. I actually had them in 7th going into this season's predictions, but they've really fallen short of my expectation, and they've been in a relegation battle all season really. Paul Hurst got the sack after losing 4 games in a row, and David Artell, he hasn't really managed to pull them out of this relegation scrap they've been in the majority of the season. I think the problem with Grimsby, that hasn't propelled them away from this relegation battle, is they haven't won back-to-back games all season, and they haven't stringed a few results together to pull them out of it really. And it's a season to forget for Grimsby. Harrogate Town, it has to go into the B category for me. Harrogate have done another outstanding job this season. The table doesn't lie this season, 13th place, so that's a highest finish for Harrogate since joining the EFL, and all credit has to go to Simon Weaver. What an incredible job he's done there. He's established them into a real good EFL side now, I think. There was first couple seasons, especially the first one, where they were scrapping relegation at times. But now they are an established League 2 side. And they play some good football at times. I like a couple of the players. I think George Thompson has had a real good season alongside Matty Daly and Abraham Eldo. So they've got some good players going into next season. I think they'll be able to attract some bigger names to come in and improve them going into next season. It's been a successful season on the whole for Harrogate, and they have to go into B. Swindon Town, and what a miserable season this would be if you were a Swindon Town fan. The club that has been in the Premier League and is a decent sized club especially for this division, finished 19th in League 2, the lowest finish of the club's history, and it's a complete embarrassment for everyone involved. With the Robins, things were looking promising at the start of the season. Flynn was appointed just before the season ended last season. They didn't bring in many players, but the players they brought in, Dan Kemp and Jake Young, obviously that was a bit of a downfall for them in the second half of the season, them not staying, because the quality they provided in the first half ultimately probably kept them up in the end. They've been awful the second half of the season. Flynn was sacked in around January time after agreeing a new deal in November. So it's been a car crash of a season, and I wouldn't have much hope if I was a Swindon fan now. No news on the new appointment for permanent manager, and there's no ambition at the club at the moment. I really worry for Swindon going into next season, so it has to be F for Swindon. Mansfield Town, obviously this has to go into the A category. Finally got the job done this season after around 10 years in this league, I believe. Just fell short on a couple of occasions for getting out of this league really. But Nigel Clough, he's found the formula to get promoted this season, and you got to give credit to them. They've been consistent the majority of the season, haven't they? You know, even when they've had their injury troubles again, you know, they've managed to grind out results when it most matters. And what I've recognised with Mansfield, when they go and lose a game, they'll always pretty much bounce back with a result, which shows you a top side really. And like I said, they've been consistent the majority of the season. They've been pretty strong at home, which is big for a team that needs to get promoted. And I think they'll do alright in League One with a couple of additions. Newport, now this is a strange one really, because around February time they were in a good position. I think many of them had them out for an outside chance for them pushing into the top 7, but the second half of the season hasn't been great for them. I know Newport haven't got the biggest budgets in the league, so 18th place. I still think a few of their fans would be satisfied with that, but it's the ending to the season which worries me and probably their fans really. 8 defeats in a row, and haven't been good enough for the second half of the season, which has seen them slip down the league all the way to 18th. They had a decent FA Cup run this season, you know, playing Man United at home, but on league position hasn't been an amazing campaign for the Exiles. Tranmere Rovers, I'm going to go in the E category. Even though Tranmere did finish above Newport, I think the aims of Tranmere, you know, it's a decent sized club with a good fan base, you know, good stadium, everything there for Tranmere to should be pushing at the right end of this league, and it's been another pretty poor season in my eyes for Tranmere. Like I said, they're a decent sized club. I think the manager they got in charge, I think he could do a good job, but needs to be backed in the summer. I think the main bright spark in Tranmere's season has been Rob Apter. He's been outstanding, I think, this season. Obviously, he won League Two's Young Player of the Season, but he won't be there next season, so it's a big summer ahead for Tranmere. I think what summed up Tranmere's season, when I was looking for the results, they went and bet, obviously, eventually champions Stockport 4-0 at home, then they went and lost 1-0 away to Forest Green, who were on some real poor form at the time. So this shows you the inconsistencies from Tranmere and need to be more consistent if they want to push up the league. On to Forest Green now, and they have to go to F. What a disastrous season for Forest Green. Back-to-back relegations, and you know they've had 3 managers, and it's just been a circus at that club really this season. You know, David Horseman at the start of the season didn't work, so what did the club decide to do? Go and appoint another inexperienced manager in Troy Deeney. I mean, let's not speak too much about that because that could be a whole video really, but that's a disastrous appointment, you know, from him calling out his players in the media, losing the dressing room. I think the damage was done then really for Steve Cottrell when he come in. He's a good manager, Steve Cottrell, and if he manages to stay at Forest Green, I think they should come back up. Real good manager, but it was too little too late really for Forest Green when Steve Cottrell was appointed. Installed some fight, but like I said, too little too late, and have to go into the F category. Accrington Stanley, and I think this has pretty much met the expectations of most fans really. They finished 17th in League Two. I didn't think many fans thought they'd be, you know, pushing for playoffs, but they were good enough to stay up in this league, and I think it has to go into C for Accrington. Like I said, met expectation, and I think it was important for Accrington not to suffer back-to-back relegations like Forest Green did, stabilise themselves in the league and push on, going further in the future. You know, they won't be with John Coleman this season, next season. Obviously, it shows you it's a bit of a transitional season really for Accrington. I think if they can keep a couple of players, you know, Jack Nolan especially, they can build around some of the youth players they've got, I think they'll do alright next season. So, yeah, C category for Accrington Stanley. Sutton United, and no matter, you know, the size of your club, relegation does hurt, and I think they have to go into F really. Obviously, long-serving Matt Gray, who did a really good job with them for the 5 seasons he was there, got sacked early in the season. They did give it a good go towards the end of the season under Steve Morrison, picking up some decent results, but yeah, they fell short on the last game of the season. I think some of the results that summed Sutton up this season, they were 1-0 up going into the 96th minute against Doncaster and then dropped points there, so some of them results ultimately come back to hurt them really. Barrow, I think obviously the initial feeling around the club, missing out on playoffs again, will be an ultimate disappointment at the moment, but I think you overall sum it up, it has to go into the B category. I think they've had another good season. Barrow, they've mainly been a National League side for the majority of their history, but now under Pete Wild, they're really setting up to be a good EFL side, a good League Two side, and credit to the manager. I think he's done a really good job there, set them up into a good unit, and they're a really good side. I think they'll be disappointed at the end of the season. I think they ran out of steam. They couldn't get any consistency in terms of results with postponements. But yeah, they fell short at the end of the day. Last game of the season, which is even worse for the fans, finishing 8th. So yeah, I'll put them in the B category. Another good season. On to my side, Walsall now. I'm going to put us in the C category. And I've got to be honest with you, I think that's what I expected at the start of the season, where we finished in the end. I think I predicted us to finish 10th. We finished 11th. So around the same spaces really in the top half, and it's what was expected. I think if we didn't finish there, there's going to be some real questions asked. Improvement from a real dire season last year, so yeah, we finished 11th. That's an improvement, but I think there's things that got to be addressed in the summer. Our defensive issues, 74 goals conceded, isn't good enough. But I think what can be brought into next season, I think the experiences we had, in and around the playoffs at times in the season can only be a good thing for us with a young squad. So that hopefully we can use that as a platform to really build into next season and be a consistent top 7 side for the whole of the season really. But can't put us any higher than the C category. Salford City, they have to go into the E category. A complete drop off from last season where they finished 7th, losing out in the playoffs to Stockport. And now they've finished 20th this season. I think Neil Wood's style of play obviously got found out, which resulted in him getting a sack. Carl Robinson come in. They hit the ground running really when he come in, with the new manager bounce. 8 games unbeaten. But at the end of the season, a bit inconsistent I think. But I like Robinson as a manager. I think he's a good manager. He's earned promotion out of this league before, and I think he'll do a decent job. Obviously, the big talking point, Matt Smith has left the club there. I think obviously it shows you Carl Robinson wants a different dimension in his striker. He scored lots of goals this season. I think it was close on 25 goals in the end. So, bit of a shock. Obviously, Elliot Watt has left the club as well. So, there's going to be a big rebuild in the summer at Salford. Wrexham, and I think no matter how you see the club really, fans will say they've spent money to get out of this league, but you have to do it at the end of the day. You've got to get the results to get out of the league. So A category for Wrexham, finished 2nd in the end, back-to-back promotions, which is an amazing achievement for any club. So massive credit to Wrexham. And they've been pretty consistent all season. They've been in and around the top 7, and you expect it really with the quality players they've got. Paul Mullin, Elliot Lee, James McLean, Andy Cannon. They've got some really good players at Wrexham, and you expect them in the top 3. But they've managed to go out achieve what was set out at the start of the season. Their home form has been outstanding. I think it's the best in the league. 54 points picked up at the Racecourse Stadium. So yeah, A category deserved for Wrexham. Wimbledon, I think very similar to my side, Walsall, were disappointed in the 2022-23 season, but have improved this season. Got into the top half and into the top 10. They finished 10th in the end after demolishing us 5-1 in the last game of the season. And yeah, it's been a solid campaign for Wimbledon, one they can build on going into next season. They've had some ups and downs, they've had some good runs of form, some not so good runs of form, but solid season. I think Jackson's a solid manager for this league, and yeah, I think they'll improve going into next season, so I'll put them in the C category for Wimbledon. Colchester, and I think it's been another season to forget for Colchester. That's why I'm going to put them into the F category. They finished 22nd in the end, and it's been the same for the last couple of seasons really for Col U. They've been on the brink of relegation. They've been in a relegation battle all season again, and it's not good enough really for Colchester, and I think the fans will have the same opinion. But I think the appointment of the Cowleys, Danny Cowley, will improve them ultimately. They can attract better players, and I think there'll be a big clear out in the summer. going into the summer transfer window, so he can bring in his mould of players that fits his system. They've got some promising players in that squad to start off with. They need to add some real quality to push up this league though. Gillingham, I'm going to put them in the D category. I think it's been an underwhelming season for the Gills. You know, what was expected in the summer, I think everyone expected them to be in the top 7, you know, with the ambition the owners showed in the summer. But I think when you go sacking a manager like Neil Harris early on in the season when they were 8th in the league, I was really puzzled at that departure really. And you know, he's gone on to manage now in the Championship with Millwall. I think he's a real good manager, and I thought that was a bit of a strange decision. But obviously they were going in a different direction under Steve Clements, and he did an okay job. Obviously got him to finish 12th, but with the signings they brought in the summer, I think they need to push higher, so they thought otherwise and they've sacked him. They brought in Mark Bonner. I think that's a really good appointment. Obviously earned promotion out of this league before, and he's still a young manager. I think that'll be a good appointment. I think the main trouble for Gillingham this season now has been they don't score enough goals. I think they scored 40 odd goals this season. They're on a negative 13 goal difference. They've really got to address that. It's been the same issue now for the last few seasons, so need to address that issue going into the summer. Doncaster Rovers, now if you'd have asked me this one in around January time, they'd have been in the EF category really. They were not doing great, were they? I think on the 27th of January, after they'd lost 5-1 to Stockport, they actually sat 22nd in the league. Fast forward, they won 11 games in a row and pushed up the league and ended the season in 5th in the playoff spot on 74 points. Outstanding job from Grant McCann to do that, and the coaching team and the players really. They've brought into the ideologies of Grant McCann. I think everyone knows he's a good manager and he just needs to be backed in this league, and I think if they back him in the summer, I think they'll be in the top 3 the way they've ended this season. Obviously missed out on playoffs, but I didn't miss out on playoffs. I missed out on the playoff final in the end on penalties to Crewe. But it's still a decent season, so I'm going to put Doncaster in the B category. MK Dons, and obviously they've got absolutely smashed in the playoffs to Crawley, who we'll go on to later. But on MK Dons, I'll have to give credit to Mike Williamson. I think he's done a decent job since he's been appointed. I think they were 18th when he was appointed. Climbed up the league up to 4th. I think he's got a 54% win percentage at the club, so he has adapted to EFL life really well. They play some really good football. They're probably one of the best footballing sides I've seen this season. Probably the best. They smashed us 5-0. But to not get promoted, I think, is a bit of a failure with the players they've got in that squad. Max Dean, Jack Payne, Dan Kemp, who strangely wasn't in the squad for the 2 playoffs games. Hopefully, something Walsall could look at to getting him in, but that could be a little bit unrealistic. They've got some good players all over the park, but I just think they're a little bit naive in them playoffs. And for the playoffs, that has brought my expectations down a little bit. I'm going to put them in the C category. Like I said, it's a little bit of a failure not getting promoted with that squad in my eyes. On to the side who knocked them out the playoffs in the semi-final, Crawley Town. Wow, what a season for Crawley it has been. You know, everyone predicted them to finish in the relegation spots this season. Everyone's relegation favourite. They've just proved everyone wrong, haven't they? They've finished 7th in the league, 70 points, snuck into the playoffs on the last game of the season. And in them playoffs games alone, absolutely outstanding. Of them 2 legs, I thought in the first leg, their pressing was outstanding. And then in the second leg, I thought they executed the game plan really well. And obviously won 8-1 in the end over 2 legs. All credit has to go to Scott Lindsay and the recruitment he's brought in from the National League North, National League South sides. Unproven players, but they're hungry to prove themselves, and it shows it in their squad, in the way they play. Expansive football. Scott Lindsay, hands down, manager of the season by a mile. Really good manager, and if they go on to win in the playoff final, it'll be an outstanding season. But even if they don't, I think still a really good season. So for that reason, I'm going to have to put them into the A category. Real good season for Crawley. Onto the side Crawley will face in the playoff final, Crewe Alexandra. They've had a good season as well. Finished 6th in the end in the playoffs, and obviously they'll play in the playoff final against Crawley on Sunday. Another team that went under the radar in the summer, Crewe. I think a lot of people predicted them to finish 15th to 18th and around that bracket, but they proved everyone wrong. Lee Bell's done a really good job there, embedded a lot of the academy players into his starting 11 and a lot of loan players into a way he wants to play football. I think they limped into the playoffs a little bit towards the end of the season. I thought their form really did falter a little bit, but they managed to get in there and they've got themselves to the playoff final. They've really turned it around in that second leg against Doncaster, showed some real good fight, won on penalties, and if they do win promotion, they'll probably sneak into that A category, but I'll just put them in the B category on the edge of A. Notts County, and I think there was massive expectations for Notts County to do similar to what Wrexham did, to really be pushing for promotion. And I think at one point, just before the turn of the new year, they were in and around the top 5 under Luke Williams. I think signs were showing then, even under Luke Williams, if the defensive issues. They know how to score goals. They've obviously had the top goal scorer in the league, Macaulay Langstaff. They've got some other good attacking players there, Danny Crowley, Jody Jones with loads of assists. So they know how to attack, but defensively, even under Luke Williams, they were very vulnerable. Obviously, he went to leave to Swansea, and I think that really didn't help him going into the second half of the season. Kind of hindered themselves from progressing any further. They brought in Maynard, who does suit the Notts County philosophy, playing expansive, attacking football, but I think he needs some time to suit to the EFL, and I think if he's backed in the summer, it'll come good. They finished 14th in the end, so a bit of an underwhelming season, I think, for Notts County, so going to put them in the D category. Bradford City, they finished 9th in the end, and they give it a good go towards the end of the season. We'll talk about that in a bit, but I'll put them into the C category. It's going to be another season in the 4th division of English football, which really isn't good enough for Bradford. They should be out of this league. They should be pushing in the top half of League One, really. So things have got to change in the summer there. Obviously, I think the appointment of David Sharp as director of football will help them. There'll be a bit more structure around the club. But Mark Hughes started the season. I think he got sacked within the first 15 games. His style of football didn't change, and everyone was finding it out, really, and he got the sack. Graham Alexander was appointed. He has had some, bumps in the road, some rough patches of form, was gaffer at the Bantams, but they give it a really good go towards the end of the season. There was a slim chance of going to the playoffs, but finished 9th. I think I predicted them to finish 9th in the end, so I'm going to put them into the C category. It was what I expected where they would finish. On to the final side, and it's a team who were champions of League 2 this season, Stockport County. Obviously, it has to go into the A category. It's been a really good season for Stockport. They used last season's playoff final heartache against Carlisle on penalties to a real good use. They used it as a platform to go and get the job done this season, and they've been consistent for the majority of the season. Even when they hit a bit of bad form just before April, mid-March, they went after that to win 8 in a row, which really clinched the title, really, for Stockport. Dave Challinor, really good manager, knows how to get the best out of his players, and they've had a really good season, deserved to win the league. I expected them to win the league, and they've gone and delivered it. Some real good performances for the whole team. Fraser Horsfall again has been outstanding. I think they're looking to sign Louis Barry in the summer as well, so if they can get him in for League 1 football, I think there's some real good ambition around Stockport at the moment. There's some real promise around the club, so yeah, I'm going to go with the A category for Stockport County. So there you have it. I've ranked every League 2 side season from the 2023-24 season. Make sure to share around this video. Does help me out a lot. And leave your thoughts in the comments. What you think of my ranking. Do you agree? Do you disagree with some of my choices? Let me know. That's the whole main view of this video, to interact with League 2 viewers. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.